What's going on, people? We are back again with Mental Max Out, the podcast, and it's your boy, Akeem Robinson, and we're so glad you're back with us. And sitting alongside me is Amy G. What's going on out there?
What's up, MMO fam? It's Amy G here. I'm so happy to be back with you guys again with another podcast. Man, I've been thinking, and I have a question for you, Akeem, and it's, how does faith produce perseverance?
So I'm telling you, when I think about that, how does faith produce perseverance? For me, I was stubborn when I thought about something like that, because when I looked at things, I looked at my setbacks as that what they were. They were setbacks. I looked at when things did not go my way. This is not my story. This should not be happening to me. I was questioning everything. And I actually was very upset when things did not go my way. So when we're talking about faith produces perseverance, it's actually creating something. We're not saying it's destroying something. We're saying faith produces perseverance, because at the end of all of this, we want you to stay rooted in faith. We want you to stay grounded in what it is creating and who it is building, because it's so easy to look at things that are not going your way in the situation you can currently be in, and think to yourself, this is awful. This is something I don't want. But in actuality, it's building you to be something so much greater. And I'm just telling you, Amy G, it's like, for me, when I used to have those things happen, the first thing I can remember is back at Clemson. When I thought I was going to be this star athlete. I thought I was going to be this amazing athlete. And next thing I know, injury number one. Next thing I know, injury number two. And then there was a third movie of an injury, and then a fourth. And I was like, okay, God. I started getting upset with God. I was like, God, this ain't funny. Like, I'm getting hurt too much. And because of what you're doing, yes, I was talking to him like, I'm ready to fight you. Like, who am I, right? I'm like, because of what you're doing, I'm not happy. I'm not doing well. My school is not doing well. And it's because you are the one hurting me. And so this whole thing started to spiral to a place where I wasn't happy, and I was looking at him as if he was the one doing it. And fast forward, I'm going to give you a little bit more later in this episode, but fast forward, it was the greatest thing that ever happened to me. Fast forward, those surgeries showed me so much beauty in other people that I would have never seen. You know what I'm saying, Amy?
Yes, and perseverance is persistence in doing something despite difficulty. And because obviously there was something in you that you kept going, and like your story, like mine, I feel like I had the same thing. Like, I had that little mustard seed of faith that kept pushing me forward day by day, little piece by piece, that cultivated this perseverance quality in me. So what was your mustard seed of faith going throughout that process?
Honestly, for me, my mustard seed of faith was that I kept waking up. I kept waking up, because I think for you listening out there, sometimes when we're going through something, if you're like me, when we're going through something, we think it's heavy. And then we're like, man, this is really stressful. Man, this weight that I'm carrying is really heavy. And then guess what? It's like somebody adds another 5-pound plate on your back. And you're like, hold on. I already just said, like, me trying to figure out this next payment was heavy. I already said this life situation I was dealing with was heavy, and something else gets added on. And then you're like, well, okay, if it's added on now, okay. And then something else gets added on, and then another thing gets added on. And so for me, I looked at the fact that I kept waking up. I truly thought at that time when I was at Clemson, I truly thought that this is so heavy and so bad that there's no way that I'm gonna wake up tomorrow. There is no way that I can live another day. And I kept going. Got up another day, and I was like, oh, okay. And I got up another day, and I was like, all right. And so for you out there listening, if you're going to work, you're going back in that house, those kids are asking you for just more of your attention, more of your time. Your spouse is stressing on you more and more and more, and you feel like you're at your wit's end, but you keep answering the bell. It's because you're being built for something great.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, and it's hard to see it when you're in the thick of it. It's so difficult to look at it when you're in the midst of it, but you're being produced and you're being molded into something so great that Only you can withstand that pressure. Only you can be put on so much pressure to carry, because once it does happen, it's going to flourish. Once it does come out, it's going to really just take off. But right now, I need to continue to cultivate you. I need to still continue to grow you. I need to still continue to have you in this to really make sure it's operating at its fine-tuned peak, you know?
Right. And it's hard to look at our challenges and be happy about them because, you know, they're uncomfortable. We're holding these feelings that we don't like. And I'm going to just refer back to the Bible, James 1:2-4, trials and temptations. It says, consider it pure joy. And that is like, you know, when you first look at it and it's like, why be happy about these trials, right? But in the Bible, it says, consider it pure joy, my brothers and sisters, whenever you face trials of many kinds, because you know that your faith is being tested and it produces perseverance. So let perseverance finish its work so that you may be mature and complete, not lacking anything. So, you know, going back to what you said, this makes us stronger and it builds us for new joy and new blessings, but we need to be prepared for those things.
No question. And I love the fact that you went to that. Think about that for a second, y'all, as y'all going out there. Consider trials as pure joy. Like seriously. And just to think about that for a second, consider your hardships. Consider your situations. Consider just these moments of uncertainty, doubt, pressure, all these things as joy, because it is a moment to produce fruit. Is a moment to stay rooted in faith. And man, one thing we want you to take out there just for today is when we say stay rooted in faith, you know, going back, my daughter, we all have an I am poster in my house. You're gonna hear a little bit more about this later on, but in my daughter's room, Serena, we have a poster of a bamboo tree. And I love the bamboo tree. I love the bamboo tree because of just educating y'all a little bit out there. To sprout out the ground, just to sprout out the ground, it takes 7 years to grow underground. So it takes 7 years to grow underground first. And so when you think about a seed having to push out through its shell, having to grow through the soil, having to make sure it's cultivated, having to make sure it's strong enough. And then after 7 years, it can then sprout out the ground. But then when it sprouts out the ground, it's one of the strongest. That's how I now view trials. I now view hardships like that, because I think to myself, if I'm in this situation and another one keeps getting put on and another one's getting put on and another one's getting put on, oh, I'm being built for something, because that's the only thing in my mind that makes sense. I am being built for something so great, for me to get so many things, for me to get so much of this pressure. And again, I'm not saying it's super easy. Just do that. I understand it's going to be hard. I understand there's going to be confusion. I understand there's going to be these moments of just, are you serious? Palms up. And you're like, really? Think about the end. Think about when you get over that hump. Think about when you are just at the top and you're like, wow, look where I've come. Look what everything I've gone through to get to this point. And that's one thing we stress to our daughter is like, this world is going to try to do everything to tell you what you're not. And so we're going to try to do our best to tell you who you are, because this is facts. These are truths. And that's what we're trying to teach to you today. Like, stay rooted in who you are.
So good. And such a good reminder that, you know, there's joy in the journey, and joy is different. It's different than just, you know, happiness. So when we're going through these trials, if we have joy, we know that there is something greater on the other side, and we just have to keep persevering and fighting through these challenges. And I just think back to New Mexico State days and my 3 injuries, because now, you know, looking back, I can say, wow, what an amazing quality that I have built through faith, because you can only see certain things once you've gone through them. That's what the past is for, to look back and look at, you know, that beautiful perseverance that you cultivate, but you need to take it day by day, moment by moment, and then recognize it once you're through. But I just always think back, like when I was laying on the couch with my crutches, watching TV, and I would think like, I don't know how I'm gonna get through this. Like I would think to myself like, wow, this is like the worst thing ever. Like all I wanted to do was walk. All I wanted to do was play soccer. All I wanted to do was the things that I loved, and you couldn't. So I was just looking for the little joys in each and every day. So like my question to the audience is like, what's something you could find today that you're joyful for to give you that fuel? All we ever have is right here, right now. Even though it may be hard and you don't see the light at the end of the tunnel, just look at something right in front of you that you could be grateful for that could give you that fuel to keep going.
Oh man, that's so beautifully said, because again, what we want you to take away is there's transformation happening. There's transformation instead of destruction. It's so easy to look at, the hard things. It's so easy to look at the things you don't have compared to things that you've missed and think you're missing out. But no, actually, your faith and staying rooted in it is producing something of a transformation within you that will then produce outside, then produce to your family, then produce to your loved ones, then produce to your children, then produce in your work. But it started with you just staying rooted. And to Amy's point, finding that small mustard seed for me, it was, man, I'm up today. Wow. Okay. Finding that small mustard seed for Amy of just like the small joys. What are the small joys, the small victories that you can find the transformation in? The fact that you are able to go to work, the fact that you are able to hug your loved ones, the fact that you're able to sit there and listen to your significant other, where before it was they're getting on your last nerve. Now I can actually listen to you, and I could actually hear what you're trying to tell me. I can actually just do something different. And that just started with you staying rooted in that faith, because now you're trying to transform yourself instead of looking at it as it was destroying you,
Mm-hmm. So good. And so, going back to trials and temptations, like they're always going to be there each and every day. Like even when you pass through a storm, there's going to be another one that comes. And it's like just when we stay rooted in that faith, that's how we can, that's what keeps us going. Because even if you're not going through some huge storm or something drastic, I know that the little things throughout the day can pile up that could feel, heavy. So when we stay rooted in our faith, we could easily, shift our perspective from fear to love, or from disappointment to the little wins throughout the day. So trying to flip that perspective.
Yes. And man, when you talk about, I try to tell people all the time that how you think your body will follow. And so if you continue to think of something as it will not get better, this will continue to stay the same, this will continue to be my life, there's no hope in sight, then more than likely your body will start to emulate that. Your habits will start to emulate that. Your speech will start to emulate that. And then next thing you know, you're living like that. And it's 1 month, and it's 2 months, and it's 3 months. And it becomes now you. And you think to yourself, oh, this is just who I am. This is just what it is. And it's so crazy, because when you talk about something like faith as big as a mustard seed, and you talk about something like finding small joys, the story that comes to my mind is back when I was a kid. I'm from Miami, Florida, y'all, 305, Rick Ross, went to my high school, and I'm like, went to my high school and everything. And I remember growing up that people used to say all the time, like, when you take pictures, don't smile. When you take pictures, like mean mug, that's just, we used to call that mean mugging, meaning like don't look happy, or people would make fun of you. And so that's what I started doing. And then as I got older, now I'm in middle school and I'm still not smiling in pictures. Now I'm in high school, still not smiling in pictures. Now I'm in college, and people say to me now, hey, you should smile for the picture. And I'm saying, oh, no, I don't smile. It's just what I do. And now when I look back, and I'm like, what am I talking about? What do I mean I don't smile? What do I like it's broken. Like it's a feature that doesn't work. And I'm saying to people, I just don't smile. I can't smile. Those words were coming out of my mouth because I created a reality that was so true in my mind that it was like, I just don't smile. So now take that small example of me not smiling and think about, what's your non-smile anymore? Oh, my family would just continue to stay this way. My parents were this way, so now I'm this way. oh, well, I was born into this situation and this situation will continue to be me. We continue to make these things our reality and we think there's no end in sight. But if we just take one small thing and change that one small thing, things will start to change.
Right. And you just like made me think of it, going to yoga. I always say, oh, make sure to try it before you don't know if oh, I can't do that. My back doesn't do that. Or, oh, I can't do that. But it's like, okay, that's okay if you believe that. But like little by little, I encourage you to try it and try something new. And, I had a girl and she kept coming. And then finally she's like, oh my gosh, dude, I'm seeing change. Like I'm starting to believe differently. Like I used to not be able to do this and now I can. And so going back to like my own personal story, my doctor was like, oh yeah, might have to get knee replacements in the future and all this stuff. And I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to believe that. So I'm consistent in my yoga. And now, I'm more flexible than I ever was before my, soccer career. And my knees feel even better. Like I totally even forgot that I had injuries because I'm consistently lubricating the joints and like, because I believe that. And I continue to water that seed of faith and believing like, oh, like what you said, what you think you become. And so we just want to let you know, like there's another way of thinking about it, and don't believe anything that someone just tells you. Like try it, think about it differently. Fuel
Yeah,
the faith.
yeah. And again, when you talk about faith produces perseverance, consistency builds consistent results.
Mm.
Consistency builds consistent results. So if you're constantly talking negatively about yourself, your environment, the people you're around, then you will constantly get a negative environment, negative people, negative surroundings. If you're constantly saying to yourself, it's not getting any better, then you will constantly get things not getting any better. And so we're just talking about changing one thing, looking at something differently, one thing, because we want you to try to now start staying rooted in faith, understanding that you're building yourself instead of destroying yourself.
And what I was going to just add is that from what Akeem was saying, like faith is a habit. This is something that we need to continuously practice. It's a habit that, we want to continuously fuel. And it's not easy. And sometimes, our mind will think of something differently. But if faith is a habit, it's something that we always come back to. So regardless of like the thoughts that you may have or, the feelings that come up, if faith is a habit, that's going to be immediately something to turn to.
And I love the fact that, like, man, the more you get to know about us, the more you're going to get to know about me. I love analogies. And I love how, like, in the Bible, they use, like, these analogies. And, like, one of my favorite is in the book of Proverbs when it talks about iron sharpens iron. And, like, when you read that, you just go right over it. You're like, iron sharpens iron, boop, and you just go on about it. But you're like, hold on. It is not that simple. It is not that just like, it's just that quick. Like if you're trying to really sharpen iron, it needs to get hot. I'm talking about temperatures need to get really hot if you're trying to sharpen iron. And then if you're trying to sharpen iron, it's going to create friction. You need to create such friction with something. So think about that for a second, y'all. If you're trying to change who you are, we're telling you that that's going to create friction because the old you is going to want to stay put, but the new you is going to be rubbing up against that, trying to create friction to break some of those habits. It's really trying to break some of those strongholds that you might be under of how you think about it, of how you've constantly created this narrative of no escape, created this narrative of there's no alternative. And it's going to create friction. But I'm telling you, and what we're trying to tell you is if you stay rooted in faith, if you build yourself up, and if you look at these trials as moments, opportunities, and to be joyful in them, guess what? That friction is going to get better. And that friction is actually going to be something sharp where you can use. There's so many great analogies out there. I love the like sports analogy all the time where they say pressure busts pipes, but pressure also creates diamonds. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, if you're looking at the pressure as I can't take it, it's going to burst pipes. But if you're looking at the pressure and you're like, I'm stepping up to the challenge, this is a moment that I actually am learning from, then you're creating something as beautiful as a diamond. you're creating something that so many people admire, but it
And
had to be created through pressure.
and that's where that transformation happens. It's like the transformation can only happen through, rebirth. And like another analogy is like when the caterpillar comes into a cocoon and it's in there and it's all dark and tight and scary and uncomfortable, and then, that transformation happens by becoming a beautiful butterfly. And so it's cool because there's so many analogies in real life examples. Like they're all repetitive to show you that this is a truth. Like this is real. This is what happens. It's law of nature. So just coming back to like in those trials, come back to that faith, come back to those joys, because when it's hard, just know that there's a transformation in process.
I'm telling you, it's such a beautiful thing because there's beauty in the pain. There is beauty in the pain. And Amy G said that so beautifully one time, that what you're going through is not forever. It's temporary. We are the ones capable of making it last forever. But if you actually go through it and you actually try to learn and understand and try to like seek the joy in it, it will actually help you. Because the cool thing about my whole situation back at Clemson was I went through all those surgeries. I went through all those things, and it made me become an amazing coach. There might be a handful of kids, and there's probably a lot more than a handful, that just did not like my style as a coach and as a person. But truly, the majority of people I've worked with have good things to say about me as a coach, because my surgeries, my situation taught me grace. My situations, they taught me that there's another way to think about it. They taught me that even though you're going through something very difficult, you're not just a product. And that's how I thought of myself. People weren't telling me that. That's how I viewed myself. But it's crazy because as a coach now, kids are viewing themselves as products. Kids are viewing themselves as, oh, I'm just an athlete. Oh, I'm just this kind of player. Oh, because of my abilities, this is how I'm going to get paid. And I try to tell people, no, because of your abilities, this opens opportunities to get paid. Not just because of your abilities, this is the only way to get paid. So it allows me to have a whole bunch of different dialogue, but I had to go through all of that to even understand how to even communicate to somebody that's going through something like that in real time. And then even on a practical sense, not even just from an athlete, as a dad and as a husband now, it taught me grace to have with my wife. It taught me grace to have with my child. Like as my Serena is screaming in my face because she don't want to eat something, I'm just singing. I'm just sitting there singing like, all right, we're going to figure it out, And so it teaches you so many things, but I had to stay rooted in understanding it's building me for something. Now,
Right.
in hindsight, I didn't think anything of that back in the day. But as I've gotten older and as I've started processing it, I've actually become more joyful that it did happen, to be honest.
And like that's why I'm obviously so grateful that you went through what you went through, because you were just such a crucial puzzle piece in my life at New Mexico State. Because after those surgeries, I was on the bench and I like felt like a useless role, and like you helped me challenge that perspective. And it's like, okay, you're still able to be used, Amy. It's just, okay, maybe not on the soccer field, but you could be used as like the best teammate you could possibly be. And I seriously took that to heart and ran with it, Keem. I literally sprinted and I was like, all right, I'm gonna be the best teammate I could be. I want to be used, I want to be helpful, and I want to inspire. And that's what I did. And my senior year, sure enough, like I had zero expectations, but the people around me noticed, and I ended up winning most inspirational player. And that was like I said, like the best year I had, because I realized there's still value in me, and it may not be the same way that I used to contribute, but we can always flip it and do differently, and you could still be used even though it's not the role that you're used to. So transformation happens, and it's building your character, but it's also allowing you to look at things differently and, cultivate a new role for yourself to where you're still fulfilled, but it's different. And so I just want to reiterate that like staying rooted in that faith is what propels you to have a different experience. Because to be honest, I don't know how my senior year would have gone if I didn't have that like planted seed, of hey, you don't have to go about it this way. You don't have to just be super sad at practice and, feel sorry for yourself and just sit in a corner. And so it's like you gave me that information of love, and I took it and I ran with it, and I ended up, building deeper connections with the players because I saw what I didn't see when I was playing. It's like that you're so stuck in your role that, like, when you zoom out and like look at the people around you, you're like, oh, there's help here. Like, I could be useful. So for those of you who are listening, it may look different what you're going through, but you're still able to be used.
Oh man, that's so beautifully said. Number one, I didn't even know you won that award, Amy G. So that was really cool. I didn't know that.
But yeah, you weren't at New Mexico State anymore. Yeah, isn't that
Yeah,
cool?
I didn't even know that. So that was huge. That's cool. See what I'm saying? I'm still winning as a coach, man. I'm still trying to tell y'all out here.
You're always winning a key.
Didn't even know that. But it's funny because, like, so in First Corinthians 9:24, it talks about running to win the race. And that's a prime example of a person that was on the soccer team. And when you're thinking to yourself, you're like, my job is to be on the soccer team. I'm supposed to be a player. I'm supposed to score goals. And it changed. It wasn't that anymore. And sometimes, in most cases, when our situations change, that means it wasn't really meant to be. That wasn't really our story in the first place. Like, our story is what it's becoming, but we don't look at it like that because we have our own story, which is a whole nother thing. But she changed and she said, okay, I'm going to now win this race. And she was the best teammate possible. She was the best person possible. She was the best version of that person she could be possible. And it was recognized. That's the thing we don't want you to miss, ladies and gentlemen. It was recognized. When she acknowledged what she was and she ran with it and embraced it and fell in love with it and found the joy in it, it was recognized by others. And that's what we want you to understand. And Amy G, I got a funny little story about that too, because after my surgeries at Clemson, Dabo Swinney took over my last 5 or 6 games of my career. And I remember he had changed up some things, and it was his first game. He changed up some things. And for the first time, he asked all the seniors to kind of like have a little meeting. And he said, anybody got anything to say? And I just love this because this is one of my highlights. I had a bunch of surgery and I played a little bit, but this is one of my little highlights that a lot of people don't know about. So if you're listening out there from the Clemson family, you might remember this. And he said, anybody got something to say? And I got something to say. And he looked me in the eyes and said, I can tell you got something to say, but it ain't for here. He said, save it for the team meeting tonight. And so when we met as a team, we met as a group, but no coaches were in there. And we were playing against Boston College. And, everybody has something to say. And I got up and I said what I had to say. And I spoke.
I have chills. I'm like, I wish I was there because I already know.
And I got up. And I just was like, I said, man, I'm screaming. I said, man, I don't care how you spell it. And I don't care what it looked like. But B-I-G, big, will never spell M-A-N. So because they bigger than us, that does not mean they're more of a man than us. And the whole room starts going crazy. The whole room starts going crazy. And they're like, what you saying, King? And I'm like, and now I'm speaking, sweating. And they were like, oh, I'm so hype. I'm ready to play now. And I was like, oh, okay. And I didn't think anything of it. And then the next Friday came before our next game. And they said, Keem, what you got for us, Keem? And I'm like, oh. And then the third game, Keem, what you got for us, Keem? And I'm like, oh. And I'm like, and then the fourth, Keem, what you got? Like, it just became a thing. And I embraced it. That a guy with 5 surgeries, hardly playing, and because that's how I felt. And what we're telling you out there is, you're going through trials. You're going through things. It might not make sense, but there's joy in it. There's a purpose in it. There's growth in it. Stay rooted within it. Because I'm telling you, if you do those things and you stay within that, the person you're becoming and transforming into, it will be recognized. It will be acknowledged. And even at some points, celebrated. And so that's what we're trying to stress to you.
I just want to say, like, throughout that process of growth and just taking on a new role and looking for new ways to, because I wanted to celebrate myself because, we get validations from the things that we love and we're good at. And so when we realize, oh my gosh, like, I could be love light, for these people, and I could inspire and, share that. like throughout that process I started falling in love with like who I am and these qualities that I've built, you know. So it's like it's hard, don't get me wrong. I had some really tough days, and days that I was like, oh my gosh, I don't know how I'm gonna go. But if you just fuel that faith and that light, like you will start to see qualities within yourself that you'll fall in love with and be like, whoa, like this is the real me, like this is truly who I am. And like there's a purpose for your pain, and I promise like it will be transformed. Just continuously stay rooted in that faith, because that faith is transformational. I'm so happy that you guys tuned in for this episode. At the end of the day, we don't want you to think like us.
We just want you to think differently. Be safe.